Let me tell you something right now that most folks don't even realize yet, but it's happening right under their nose. While the world's been caught up in flashy headlines and loud-mouthed diplomacy, there's been a quiet storm brewing. You ain't seen it on CNN. You won't hear it shouted across the loudspeakers at the UN. But if you take a moment, step back, and watch the moves with a little wisdom, like watching a master chess player work his magic, you'll understand one thing. Dr. S. Jaishankar didn't just visit Africa. He didn't just shake a few hands and pose for pictures. That man walked into Africa like a calm river cutting through stone. No fireworks, no drums, just results. And now, the whole continent is looking at India different, with respect, with admiration, with trust. You see, there's something powerful about a man who doesn't need to speak loud to be heard. Jaishankar didn't have to demand attention. He earned it. He didn't walk into those African nations with a big wallet and a long list of conditions. No, sir. He walked in with history, humility, and a plan. He walked in with the weight of an ancient civilization and the clarity of a forward-thinking strategist. And that combination, that's how he won the heart of Africa. Now, I want you to understand something deep. Africa's respect is not up for sale. It's not something you can buy with loans wrapped in red tape or flashy infrastructure filled with debt traps. You can't colonize it again with new logos. Africa's smart now. They've seen it all. The sweet talk, the exploitation, the promises broken like cracked glass. But when India came in, especially with Jaishankar leading the diplomacy, it was different. It felt real. He didn't go in trying to fix Africa. He went in saying, let's build together. He didn't pretend to know what Africa needed. He listened. He respected their autonomy. And let me tell you something. Respect is the greatest currency in international relations. Respect is worth more than gold. And Dr. Jaishankar brought it in buckets. This man didn't just bring deals. He brought dignity. He didn't carry arrogance. He carried ancestral wisdom. And Africa recognized that. Because Africa, like India, knows what it feels like to be robbed of voice, of pride, of identity. So when they see someone who walks in, not as a savior but as a brother, they embrace him like family. And that's exactly what's happening now. India's partnerships in Africa are not transactional. They are transformational. You see the difference. One is short-term gain, the other is long-term change. And what Jaishankar understood, what most Western diplomats can't grasp, is that Africa doesn't need another boss. Africa needs an ally, not a teacher, but a teammate. That's why India's investments are winning hearts. You know what India offers that others don't. Respect for sovereignty, skill development, technology transfer, real empowerment, not strings attached. Not you vote for me at the UN and I'll give you this. No. India came in saying, let's rise together. And that right there, that soft power at its finest. While the rest of the world plays loud and proud, Jaishankar has been playing wise and quiet. He's been nurturing relationships like a gardener tending to his crops. He understands the culture, he understands the pain, he doesn't forget history, but he doesn't dwell on it either. Instead, he builds on it. That's leadership. That's statesmanship. He went to countries most world leaders can't even pronounce right. Countries that have been ignored, underestimated, sidelined. But Jaishankar showed up anyway, and not with cameras blazing or entourages stretching across city blocks. He came in humbly, he came in respectfully, and he left an impact deeper than most leaders ever dream of. Let me break it down for you. India is now training African defense officers in Indian academies, not as a show of strength, but as a gesture of trust. India is helping set up IT centers not to control, but to empower. India is sharing pharmaceutical know-how, not to dominate markets, but to save lives. And who's behind this vision? Who's articulating this strategy? Jaishankar. That man don't miss. He sat across from African leaders not with superiority, but with solidarity. And that matters, that speaks volumes. You see, when you've been stepped on for centuries, what you want most is not sympathy, it's equality, and that's what India brings to the table, because India's rise is not about overpowering others, it's about uplifting together. While Western media keeps looking east toward China's aggressive outreach in Africa, they forget to look south, because right there, quietly, India has been weaving a network of real partnership, a brotherhood. And you better believe Africa feels that, Africa sees that, and most importantly, Africa respects that. Let me tell you what Africa is saying now, though they may not shout it in headlines. India didn't just come to do business. India came to build something lasting. That's legacy talk. That's future talk, and Jaishankar, he's the architect. You know what makes it even more powerful? India isn't using Africa to fight anyone else's battles. They're not trying to form blocks. They're not saying, if you're with us, you're against them. No, they're saying, let's rewrite the rules together. Let's be the authors of our own futures. And if that ain't the most revolutionary, most empowering, most soulful form of diplomacy, I don't know what is. There's something sacred about that kind of leadership. It's not loud, it's not brash, it's intentional, strategic, compassionate, and above all, it's consistent, because real respect isn't built overnight. It's built over time, through actions, not promises, through presence, not press releases, and that's exactly how Jaishankar and India have earned Africa's respect. Now let's talk real for a second. The world don't like quiet power. The world don't like when someone rises silently. They want drama. They want controversy. They want somebody to mess up. But India didn't play that game. Jaishankar didn't play that game, and that's what's messing folks up. They keep asking, how did India gain so much influence in Africa without us even noticing? And the answer is simple. They weren't looking at the roots. They were looking at the noise. But see, roots grow deep underground. They don't scream, they don't glow, but when the storm comes, it's the roots that hold the tree upright. And right now, India's roots in Africa are growing stronger than ever. Africa is starting to see India as a mirror, a partner that understands colonization, understands struggle, understands rebuilding, and there's power in that kind of empathy, that kind of shared history. It builds trust faster than 1,000 contracts, but don't mistake kindness for weakness. That's another lesson Jaishankar taught the world. He might shake hands with grace, but behind those glasses is a man who sees every move, who calculates 10 steps ahead, who understands that power without purpose is just noise, but purpose with patience, that's unstoppable. So now, the same countries that used to look to the west or bow to China are starting to look east, but not too far east. They're looking toward India, because India's not here to dominate. India's here to collaborate, and you know what else. India doesn't carry colonial baggage. It doesn't bring the arrogance of empire. It brings the humility of experience, the intelligence of tradition, the strength of 1 billion people who rose from struggle to strategy. Let me paint this clearly for you. African nations are now partnering with India on digital infrastructure, on education, on defense, on health, and not because India begged for a seat at the table, but because they brought their own table, and that table, it's sturdy, it's respectful, and everyone's invited. While some countries make you feel small before they give you aid, India makes you feel equal before they even shake your hand. That's not just diplomacy, that's decency, and Jaishankar is the face of that decency. A man who understands that true leadership is about lifting others up, not standing over them. That diplomacy is not a game of chess to outsmart others, but a game of unity to outlast empires. So if you're wondering how India silently won Africa's respect, look no further than the man who never asked for applause, but kept showing up. The man who doesn't tweet threats, but quietly builds bridges. The man who doesn't bend the world to his will, but inspires it to walk alongside. That's Dr. S. Jaishankar, and through him, India just pulled off one of the greatest soft power moves of our time.
Africa didn't just say yes to deals.
Africa said yes to dignity, and that, my friend, is how silent power makes the loudest impact, because while others shout, India listens, while others demand, India collaborates, and while others treat Africa as a stepping stone, India sees it as a partner in progress. So, the next time someone asks you why Africa is leaning toward India, don't just talk about trade, don't just talk about tech. Tell them about the respect, tell them about the trust, tell them about the silent moves that changed everything. Tell them about the quiet man who walked with history behind him and the future in his eyes. Tell them about how Jaishankar didn't need a podium to make a point. He let his actions speak, and Africa heard him loud and clear. Now that right there is what legacy looks like. That's what real power feels like, and that's how you win, not just contracts, but hearts. It marked the birth of India's assertive military doctrine backed by innovation. Jaishankar's diplomacy is restoring South-South cooperation as a force against global imbalance. You see, the world has long been dominated by a North-centric narrative. Power, influence, diplomacy, wealth. Everything was seen through the lens of Western hegemony. But then came a shift, a quiet, strategic recalibration of power that didn't roar into being. It whispered, that whisper, that's India, and the man turning that whisper into a global statement is Dr. S. Jaishankar. This isn't just about diplomacy, this is about civilizational confidence. Jaishankar didn't just walk into international forums to beg for inclusion. He walked in representing 1 billion plus people who had been underestimated for decades and simply said, "We will do it differently." His tone wasn't aggressive, but it was firm. He didn't ask to be heard. He made listening to India inevitable. India's posture changed under his stewardship, not just diplomatically, but militarily too. While the world watched India's satellites rise into the sky, few noticed something deeper happening beneath the surface. India's defense philosophy was evolving, not to become a war-hungry nation, but to become a nation that no longer needed to tolerate disrespect. The Akash, in G. Tejas K-1A, INS Vikrant, Agni, V. All these were not just machines. They were statements of a nation that has the will, the wisdom, and now the weapons to protect its sovereignty on its own terms. And Jaishankar made sure the world understood. India doesn't seek conflict, but it's no longer going to avoid standing its ground. This new assertiveness wasn't just built on weapons. It was built on partnerships. And here's where Africa comes in. See, for decades, African nations were approached like customers, never equals. Jaishankar flipped that equation. He walked into Africa not as a donor, not as a savior, but as a partner. And that made all the difference, because Africa, too, remembers the taste of colonization. It too understands what it means to be dictated to be used, to be sidelined. And when someone like Jaishankar comes in and says, "We've been where you are and we're still climbing, let's climb together," that message hits differently. That message creates trust. South-South cooperation isn't a trendy phrase in Jaishankar's book. It's a strategy, a philosophy, a reclamation of agency. While the West talks about multilateralism but acts in self-interest, Jaishankar has been quietly building horizontal alliances. India to Africa, India to Latin America, India to Southeast Asia. Alliances where no one is treated like the little brother. No big brother complex, no colonial hangover, just shared interests, shared values, and shared futures. And let me tell you something, that idea is catching fire, because the nations of the global South, they've had enough of the lectures, enough of the conditional aid, enough of the being told what to do while their people suffer and their leaders are disrespected. They don't want handouts, they want handshakes. And Jaishankar is delivering just that, Look at the India-Africa defense conclaves. They're not about showing off military might. They're about knowledge exchange, about training, about co-development. About telling African nations, you can build this too, you can lead this too. While others sell weapons with political strings, India shares knowledge with cultural respect. That's a soft revolution. A quiet equalizer, and behind it all is a deeper philosophy, that innovation is sovereignty. Jaishankar doesn't just believe in innovation for growth. He sees it as the foundation of independence. Whether it's digital public infrastructure, UP, indigenous missile systems, or vaccine manufacturing, India's story is proof that a developing country can lead from the front if it invests in its own capabilities. And now India is bringing that blueprint to its friends in the global south. In Africa, this isn't just theory, it's visible. India is helping build health systems that don't rely on foreign imports. It's training coders and engineers instead of just importing workers. It's opening satellite campuses of Indian universities. That's soft power rooted in self-reliance. That's how Jaishankar is setting the standard, not by offering to fish, but by teaching how to build the boat, cast the net, and sell the fish globally. And the West, it's watching this unfold with a mix of confusion and concern, because they are seeing African countries turning east and south, not out of rebellion, but out of rationality. The world is no longer bipolar. It's polycentric, and Jaishankar's vision is one where the global south doesn't just participate, it leads. Even forums like BRICS, the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and the International Solar Alliance are no longer abstract platforms. They're becoming real engines of influence. India, under Jaishankar's doctrine, is using every forum, every multilateral tool to amplify the voices of the ignored, and he's not shouting. He's aligning, strategizing, building quietly, one handshake at a time. But don't mistake that calm demeanor for a lack of sharpness. Jaishankar is a scholar, yes, but he's also a realist. He understands geopolitics isn't a charity game, it's a power game. But his genius is in realizing that power today doesn't only come from aircraft carriers. It comes from narratives, networks, and niche technologies. And India is positioning itself as the nexus of all three. Narratives. India is reclaiming its story as a civilization state, not just a post-colonial republic. Networks. India is building global relationships rooted in history and respect, not coercion. Niche technologies. India is focusing on strategic sectors like semiconductors, quantum computing, defense R/&D, and space tech to ensure it's not just part of the future, it helps write it. Now you put all that together and what do you get? A doctrine, a new way of standing tall in a crowded world. And here's what's remarkable. This military doctrine isn't just about defense, it's about dignity. It's about ensuring that no Indian citizen, no African partner, no global South nation ever feels small in global forums again. Jaishankar has made it clear the age of lectures from declining empires is over. This is the era of mutual growth. This is the moment for sovereign-minded states to collaborate without compromise, and that message, it resonates from Nairobi to Dhaka, from Sao Paulo to Hanoi. India's assertive military and foreign policy isn't about war. It's about deterrence with dignity. It's about ensuring that when India speaks, the world listens, not because it's loud, but because it's credible. And credibility doesn't come from media spins or flashy rhetoric. It comes from results, from consistency, from being the nation that shows up when no one else does. And that's exactly what India is doing across Africa and the global south. And right there, at the center of it all, is a diplomat who understands language, culture, politics, and power all at once. Jaishankar is that rare combination of thinker and doer, a man who quotes history but acts in the present, who knows how to win minds without losing face, who doesn't blink when challenged but doesn't boast when praised either. So when people ask, why is the world suddenly paying attention to India's outreach in Africa, the answer isn't sudden at all. This was built brick by brick, relationship by relationship, investment by investment. This was a long game, and Jaishankar is playing it like a grandmaster, because real power today isn't about how many tanks you roll out. It's about how many minds you win over. And right now, the minds and hearts of the global south are turning toward India, not because of compulsion, but because of conviction.